I wish I could be there in person at such an important conference, highlighting the role of women members of Parliament in stabilizing and transforming Afghanistan. And I am so pleased that so many Afghans have been able to gather for this meeting. Given the historic elections that took place on September 18th, and the fact that over 400 women ran for Parliament, we know that you are at an historic juncture, ensuring that women continue to be effective parliamentarians and that you work with your colleagues to benefit all Afghans, men and women, boys and girls. You will make such a difference. This year marks the 15th anniversary of the UN Fourth World Conference on Women that took place in Beijing. There was a platform for action that was adopted there by my country and 188 other countries. And you know, this ambitious blueprint for women's global progress has served as a call to action on so many important fronts, advancing women's access to education and health, the right to be free from violence, and the opportunity to participate fully in the economic and political lives of countries. The platform for action underscores, without the active participation of women and the incorporation of the perspective of women at all levels of decision-making, goals for equality, development, and peace cannot be achieved. It is also 10 years since the United Nations Security Council adopted the Security Council Resolution 1325 that links women with peace and security and recognizes the important role that women must play in conflict resolution and peace negotiations and peace building if the peace is to be sustained. That resolution was adopted in order to increase women's representation at all levels of the process of conflict resolution. In this anniversary year, it is imperative that we in the international community accelerate its implementation. And in areas of conflict and post-conflict and transition, we need to ensure that women gain the skills and access to opportunities to fully participate in these peace processes and political transitions and the writing of new constitutions and the electoral processes. And we know that in Afghanistan, women have been so committed to building their nascent democracy, exercising their right to vote and run for office. And they do so sometimes at great peril, often risking their lives. Last year, I traveled to a remote province in Afghanistan just prior to the provincial elections. This year, I was in Afghanistan again, just before the parliamentary elections. And there were more women running in both of those contests than even for all of the quota positions. And the women told me that despite the threats to their security, they were willing to make the sacrifice to run for office because it is their hope that they can help make life better in their communities and in their countries. They refuse to be victims. And I have learned firsthand over many years how many capable Afghan women there are, risking their lives every day, working alongside the men to create a better future for their country. I will never forget being in Kabul one night with a group of Afghan women, and one of them said to me, she said, "Don't look at us as victims. Look at us as the leaders that we are." Today, investing in women is at the heart of the foreign policy of my country because we know that women's participation is so essential to addressing the challenges that we face as nations and as a community of nations. So we are working hard to implement policies and programs to grow women's leadership capacity in all areas of political participation and decision-making. We know that when women are included in the political processes, they need to have an active role in that process, and that includes peace process and post-conflict efforts. And this is why we have invested in policies and programs to grow women's leadership and effectiveness and capacity in all areas, both in political participation and civil society participation. Now, nowhere is this more critical than in Afghanistan. In President Obama's State of the Union address, he declared that the U.S. government's policies in Afghanistan reflect our own national values, which include support for universally recognized human rights. And at the London conference earlier this year, Secretary Clinton unveiled the Afghan Women's Action Plan, which incorporated our U.S. Afghanistan efforts for stabilization and is an example of how women are central to human rights and security goals in Afghanistan. As she said, the plan includes initiatives focused on women's security, leadership in the public and private sector, women's access to judicial institutions, education, and health services, and women's ability to take advantage of economic opportunities, especially in the agricultural sector. This is a comprehensive, forward-looking agenda. The Afghanistan and Pakistan Regional Stabilization Strategy recognizes that women are agents of change, and it underscores their importance to efforts to strengthen Afghan communities' capacity to withstand the threats posed by extremism. It establishes women's empowerment as critical to unleashing the full economic potential of the Afghan people. My country's strategy in Afghanistan, shared with all of you, is one that addresses issues of security, economic development, social development, good governance, and rule of law. We have developed a detailed 3-year civilian assistance strategy for Afghan women and girls that covers all aspects of development with specific indicators to ensure progress and to measure that progress. The future stability and prosperity of Afghanistan depend in large part on the degree to which women will have an active role in rebuilding civil society, an active role and voice in their nation's political process. And that's why all of you have gathered, because you know to reach that level of participation, women need to be included in the political process at all levels, in Parliament, in civil service positions, in the peace process, in local government. In recent months, the role of women in reintegration and reconciliation has been of paramount importance and discussion. Earlier this year, Secretary Clinton made clear at the London conference that the reintegration of former Taliban can only take place if they reject violence, renounce al-Qaeda, and accept all the tenets of the Afghan Constitution, including the commitment to protect women from violence and oppression and ensure that women are fully participating and have access to education. We know that Afghan women want a process that promotes peace in their country. As they have said to me, they want to see an end to the conflict, but they want to have a voice in the decision-making about their future and the future of their country. The United States has advocated for Afghan women's civil society's own recommendations to include at least 25% women in the consultative peace jirga that took place in June, as well as in follow-on shuras and consultations at all levels, especially at the district level and provincial levels, because these are so important. And we have provided key support for provincial council candidates, parliamentarians, civil society representatives. During my trip to Afghanistan last summer, I announced a new program, the Ambassador's Small Grants Fund, of resources to go directly to NGOs to strengthen the technical and organizational capacity of Afghan-led, women-led NGOs. Under this fund, we help to support the pre-Peace Jirga conference for female Jirga participants so that they could have the training and skills and opportunity to strategize together to be very effective participants in the consultative Peace Jirga, as they clearly were. And we are supporting political development programs to train female parliamentarians and their staffs, supporting civil society organizations to provide civic education, to increase the participation of women and youth in the electoral process. Under our USAID initiative to promote Afghan civil society, we are committed to allocating at least 50% of the grants to female-led or female-focused organizations. But we know that the challenges that remain are significant. But we also know that our commitment to the women of Afghanistan must not wane. We are working together to ensure that women continue to be included in the ongoing reintegration process, represented on the High Peace Council, which, as you know, is the Afghan government's policy body leading to these reintegration efforts. At the International Conference in Afghanistan, on Afghanistan, that took place in London earlier this year, Secretary Clinton emphasized that women need to be involved at every step of the way in the process of building Afghanistan's future. She re-emphasized this again at the Kabul conference. She said, if women are silenced, if women are pushed to the margins of Afghan society, the prospects for peace and justice will be subverted. If a peace process is to endure, women need to have a voice in the decision-making of the future of their country, because there can be no progress in Afghanistan or in any other part of the world without the progress of women. So know that we will continue to work with each and every one of you, with all of you in Afghanistan, and with our international colleagues who are so engaged in supporting you. We don't do this as a favor to the women, although women need every opportunity. But we know even more that if women do not get these opportunities, do not get to fulfill their potential, do not get to participate, the future of Afghanistan will not be what it must and can be, nor will any potential for peace be sustained. So what you are gathered to discuss and what you are doing to support women in Afghanistan's parliament could not be more important. I wish you all great success, and I assure you our ongoing commitment to work together with you and our partners so that you can continue to work to build the kind of Afghanistan that we all want to see, the kind of Afghanistan that will create a better life for all the people of your country.